All right, all right. Hey, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. I'm Dr. B. I'm your host, and just excited every day. Every day I'm excited because every day is a new day. Every day has new challenges. Every day has new things that are exciting. Every day we get to wake up. At least I get to wake up every morning. I guess the day that I don't wake up is the day it won't be a great day, but I guess it'll even be a more fantastic day because I'll probably be in heaven doing a whole bunch of stuff. But until then, I think God's got me here for at least another 40, 50 years. I'm 60 now, so I'm thinking at least 110, which is so exciting. And today I have a special guest person that I was wanting to ask, hey, can you come on my podcast? And I was scared to ask him. And so just because I just hold him in such high regard, and, I'll talk to anybody. I don't have any problem talking to anybody, but there's just certain people in your life you just go, man, I want to be where that guy is, or I want to do some of the things he's doing, or I want to make it. To a guy named David Horsager. He is this guy, one of the most foremost supposedly on trust leadership and how trusting people works, and everything that has to do with trust. And I go to this event and there's 500 people in the room, and I start looking around the room and I find out, there's only like 30 folks that look like us that's even close to being at this room. And I'm like, I know I've been in barbershops, I've been around a whole bunch of Black men, and we got some trust issues. And so why are we not in this room? And I don't think Dave was trying to stop us from coming. He just wasn't, it wasn't like anything. It was in Minnesota, so he wasn't thinking I got a whole lot of folks to talk to bring to this event. And so I came back to Denver, and I wanted to do something about it. And as I wanted to do something about it, I figured I started out doing some coaching stuff, started doing some mentoring stuff. I said, I got to get out on a podcast. And so I decided back in 2024 that I would interview 100 Black men that were successful in our country or around the world during that year. We got to like 110. We're at this podcast now. We're over 250 episodes of me just finding Black men because there's all these stereotypes, and the stereotypes. Ron comes from St. Louis, and I don't know if you were East St. Louis or regular St. Louis, but I know St. Louis is St. Louis, and there's just, hey, we're not good dads, or we don't take care of our families, or, we're womenizers, and, what are those stereotypes? And what I've been finding is there is a whole lot of men who are doing some amazing stuff, and you are one of them. Ron, I found out he lives in Colombia. He's now since moved to, I don't know how you say it, Colombia. And I keep telling my wife we need to go to Colombia, and she's like, "We're not going to Colombia." I'm like, "No, we're going to Colombia." So just get ready, Ron, because we're gonna convince her. I'm gonna be out there hanging with you. So I'm gonna let Ron tell his story. I would love to tell, because for the last, I say 6 months, I've just been trying to ease my way into one of those guys where you just want to kind of hang on to their coattails and see what they're doing, and be a fly on the wall. And I'm starting to become a bigger fly, because I'm trying to really jump into all that you have to offer and the things that you do with the SpeakerHub. And we're going to talk about it today a little bit. But first, I want you to just kind of tell your story, how you got to do and be the person that you are today.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, Brian, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast to even be able to share some of the wins and losses that I've experienced in life. 60, that's a big age. Mm-hmm. I hope to make it to 60. In the words of Kanye West, we wasn't supposed to make it past 25. Joke's on you. We still alive. So I'm a huge believer that growing up in East St. Louis, okay, is where I'm from, the other side of the arch, as I like to say. It was interesting, but I was fortunate. I don't have survivor's remorse or anything like that because, as you mentioned, I've lived in 5 other countries around the world. So I realized that what people would consider the hood in the U.S. is not the hood. It ain't nowhere close to the hood. So, but yeah, that's where I'm from. I'm from East St. Louis. I'm an entrepreneur, and I love to help folks to get better, man. So.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Now, one of the things that I ask, all of the men, because we think about being a dad and what it means
Mhm.
to be a dad, and we always come from the side. I don't say we always, but a lot of times when we talk about being a dad, we talk about how important it is for kids to have a mom and a dad and to grow up with the dad and have that male figure. We kind of pour into what that symbolism means for the kids to have that dad. What I love to ask black men and men like yourself is, what does it mean to you to be a dad? Like, how did that change your life? How did that change the way that you go about some of the things that you do? And the importance of those kids that are in your life, because I know you're a great dad, and I know that there's nothing you wouldn't do for them. But I want people to hear that. I want people to hear, man, it did change my life. It changed my outlook. It changed, So I'd love for you to just kind of share a little bit with us what
Well,
that works. Yeah.
well, yeah, I'll bring you up to speed a bit. I'm I'm Ron Story Jr., which means that there was another Ron Story before me.
Mm.
And because of some complications with him and my mom, they got divorced. Right. So most people, their parents get divorced and they move a long ways away, or they got parental rights and things like that. Well, I was fortunate where my family owned 5 houses on the same side of the street.
Oh gosh.
So 2 houses down is where my grandma lived. Right next door to me is where my uncle lived. On the other side of my grandma is where my other aunts and uncles lived. So we lived all on the same street.
Wow.
So my mom and dad got a divorce. My dad moved next door to us.
Oh my gosh. You might as well have been in the house.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the funny thing though. My mom and dad both worked in the school district. They're school teachers.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So my dad worked at my school my whole life.
I love
He
it.
lived next door, and he worked at the school. So we just didn't live in the same house, is the best way to say it. Because I was outside playing in his yard because it was right next door to my yard, and blah blah blah. So that's kind of how it went with me, and growing up with kind of a half and half type of situation. Now, I like to tell that story to give a bit of context, because even though I grew up with him right next door, he wasn't involved with me at all. Right?
Okay.
And part of that came because of some medical issues. And as I got older, I learned to forgive him for those things and what he was experiencing. So because of those medical issues, I was a bit more empathetic as I got older than what I am today. I mean, I should say than what I was at the time when it all happened, right? When he was having those issues, I was maybe 4 years old, and he was attacked outside of a bar.
Oh wow.
And I remember my mom taking me to the hospital, and my dad had 100 staples across the top of his head.
Oh gosh.
So that was tragic. As a kid, it's traumatizing. You don't know. Your dad isn't the same. I mean, he couldn't talk. He had to learn how to speak again, everything. So as a kid, you don't know. You just know your dad isn't there. But as an adult, you start to get a lot more empathy for that person. So I'm a person that's trying to be the dad I didn't have. It's probably the best way to explain it. I don't know what you're supposed to do. I grew up with a mom and 2 sisters in the house. So, but my dad was next door. He was next door. But because of those medical issues, he
was there. You saw him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But it had to be pretty cool to have your whole family looking out for you. I think about like when I grew up on the street, and we'd run up and down, and it didn't matter who the neighbor was, they helped raise you. They're like, you better get it out, screaming out the door, what are you guys doing out there? Or whatever it was. But you actually had family members who could probably do stuff about, kids that were acting up and making sure that like you were raised by the village.
Well,
that was your family. That had to, now that you've been around. Yeah.
Well, I think back in the 70s and 80s, that was normal, right? And then my mom and dad, they were known from working at the school, so everybody knew them. And then my uncles, they were prominent in the church. So
Okay.
everybody knew my family. Like I had free reign to go anywhere because my mama knew that everywhere somebody knew us.
Anywhere, but
Yeah, you ride your bike and you
you
gone.
still see it.
Exactly. So you ride your bike and you're gone, and you're just like, holy smokes, like I can go anywhere, but I know if something happened, somebody over here knows my uncle or my mom or my dad or someone,
Yeah. Kind of talk to me a little bit about just identity and the person that you grew up to be. I mean, did you have these aspirations of, sometimes doctor, fireman, or do you say, "Hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur when I grow up, and I'm going to, I'm going
Nah,
to
that
change the
wasn't
world," for speakers? But
nah,
no, you're good.
I didn't grow up with that at all. Um, I grew up as a kid that just did his homework
Mhm.
and asked questions. And one of our guidance counselors said, "Man, you like to draw and you're good at math. You should go to school for engineering." Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know any engineers, never met an engineer, didn't even know what an engineer did. This is before the internet, right? So I had no clue,
Yeah.
but he told me engineers make $60,000. Cool, sign me up. I want to do that.
We're there. Wow. Oh my gosh. So there's like, and then you go to school, and you're finding out to be an engineer. Did you find out I don't want to be an engineer? Or did you go all the way through? You are now an engineer going, this is not what I want to do with my life. How did that all
No, it didn't.
transpire?
No, I'll tell you what happened. I went to the University of Illinois to study construction management. And at the time, they had like the top
Mhm.
civil engineering school. And I failed out the first year. I'm like, I hate this. I mean, I completely failed out of school my first year, and I ended up transferring to a junior college, a community college called Parkland. And um, when you're in high school, there's this thing called Inroads. So you go to Inroads, or you can do something else. Like Inroads gave you an internship
Mhm.
in St. Louis, and I chose to not do that. I chose to go to this thing called the Minority Entrepreneurship Program, and I learned to start a business at 15. So,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
trying all types of stuff. None of it really worked, but I'm just out here experimenting. I was in junior achievement. I worked at McDonald's at 14. I was just hustling. I was the carver at Old Country Buffet with the hat on, cutting
Oh,
the
love
meat.
it.
I had all types of jobs and hustles. But when I went to college, I fell down to engineering, and I fell back to what I knew, which was, well, I'll just start a business.
Mhm.
So I started my first business my sophomore year in college. And so that started the entrepreneurial journey. But it was what I knew. I knew business. I didn't know engineering. I didn't
Mhm.
know that it was going to be a bunch of just doing math all day. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, you're just checking tolerances and doing math all day. That ain't the life I wanted to live. So, I'm glad I found entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. It's so funny how we end up doing some of the things that we do. I was kind of the opposite. I was what they call a special ed student. I had dyslexia. And, they figured it out when I was young, and I wasn't going to college. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to go be a stuntman. I'm going to go to California. I'm going to go to Hollywood, and I'm going to figure out, how do I, jump on top of cars and out of buildings and that kind of stuff. And she said, no, son, you got to get an education. And I just happened to be a pretty good athlete, so I was able to have scholarship offers, even though I couldn't pass any tests. But I could still, because I was labeled special ed, I could go to school, and so college was good for me. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll be a teacher, because that's what we're supposed to do, is go be a teacher. And I ended up teaching, at a high school and teaching PE, and then I ended up at the university teaching computers at the time, because that was the new deal, the internet, right? So I got my master's in educational technology, and this is so funny, right? You'll appreciate this. I have a master's that I got in 1992 in educational technology. So by 95, I'm teaching at the university and teaching teachers how to use technology, right? So I'm teaching them how to use VCRs. I'm teaching them how to use overhead projectors. I'm teaching them how to use laser disc players. And then the internet started coming out. So then we had to build a web page, and it took us like 12 graduate students and myself a whole semester to build a 4-page web page because we had to code everything. And so now they go, well, you're a technologist. I'm a technologist that does a whole lot of stuff and has figured this thing out. But there, like you said, there was no internet back then. There was no stuff. So talk to me a little bit about your entrepreneurship and your I know business. And did you have a fear of failure like so many? It sounds like you just kept failing forward. But there's so many of us that say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, and they try one business or they try a podcast and do 5 episodes and quit because they didn't think they were good at it. What kept you going?
Well, I think it depends on when you start, right?
Mm-hmm.
At 19, you ain't got nothing to lose. Like, I didn't have any kids. I didn't have a job. I was a student. So it was really nothing to lose. Like, oh, what if this doesn't work? What? I'm still going to be a student.
Yeah.
There was no down. There was no way to fall down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned a long time ago was that just like in sports or anything else, you skill stack, right? So when I played baseball in high school, I got a bowling scholarship. I was really good at things where you could accept responsibility for your success or failure yourself. And but I learned from bowling, when you first start bowling, you're not throwing a hook across the lane and looking like it's going to go in the gutter and making it come back and, throwing a strike. You got to stack skills to get to that point. You got to learn to throw straight balls and put your finger in the ball first, where you go all the way down to this part before you ever learn to throw a ball where you're just using your fingertips. So it's the skill stacking thing. So I had already understood that was part of the process of life. In baseball, you learn to catch with no glove, then you put a glove on and you throw and catch ground balls, pop flies. It's skill stacking. Hit a regular ball, then you get a curve ball, right? So you're learning all of these different skills. And I figured business was probably the same thing. So I learned selling first, because that's the one skill that everybody needs in business. If you aren't the best salesperson in your company, you are just hiring your competition, because when they realize that you can't sell, they just gonna go start the business themselves. So skill stacking was important. So I learned sales first, and then I tried to build upon that.
Gotcha. I know there's this belief that, and you said you started with sales, that sales is this evil, bad thing that we all do, but we're all salesmen in some manner. I mean, the guys that get the best girls when you're starting your dating process, they're good at sales, or they figured it out, and somehow folks have said, well, I could never sell. Selling's not what I could ever do. And yet they do it every day, all day long.
Well, I mean, they're trying to sell you on the idea. Yeah, that's my daughter. They're trying to sell you on the idea that they can't sell, which is even funnier, right? So you want to say hi? Say hi.
Hi.
Okay.
How are you doing? So good to see you.
Well, I don't think she can hear you because I have in my headphones.
Okay, got you. Got the headphones on. Okay.
¿Tú quieres darme 30 minutos? Ok. Después mi cita. Estoy grabando, ok?
Okay.
Diga hola a todos los chicos en internet, en YouTube. No? Okay. All right.
That's so cool.
Okay. So most of the people don't realize that you're selling your ideas, you're selling your philosophies, your lifestyle all the time, 100% of the time. But there's this caricature of something that gives you an excuse not to own it. So here's what I mean. If you've painted in your mind that the guy with the velvet suit and the velour pants, and he's trying to sell you a car and his hair is slicked back, if that's the caricature that you have of a salesperson, you will always point to that person when you don't want to build the skill. Because you'll say, if I build the skill, I'm going to be putting on his pants, putting on his jacket, right? But yet, that person has a house full of stuff that was sold to them, right? So they hate salespeople, but they love buying from other people. And if you offer them something of a certain price, they're going to say, I'm not buying that without talking to somebody first. So they actually request a salesperson for most of their larger purchases.
That's so true.
Nobody bought their $40,000 car off the internet. They actually talked to somebody who could answer their question. Well, no, I didn't talk to the salesperson. I talked to support. That person is trained on selling you.
Of course. Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh.
I think we as humans, we argue for our weaknesses, meaning that instead of addressing it and taking responsibility for it, by claiming the weakness, you get to say, well, it's somebody else's fault that I'm not where I want to be. I couldn't sell someone on the idea that I had. I couldn't sell someone on buying my product. I couldn't sell someone on investing in my company. I couldn't sell someone on coming to work for me. So many different things like that, right? One moment. Yes, baby. See. Okay. Okay. Cierra la puerta y dame 30 minutos, okay? Okay.
That's so cool. Yes.
So, but so most people are selling themselves on those ideas, and they would be better served if they just learn the skill.
I guess for me, I'm sorry, we talked to each other. We jumped on top of each other, but you're good.
Oh yeah, no, I'm saying they would be better served if they just accepted the idea that you get to pick your sales personality.
Okay.
If you don't like the sleazy salesperson, just don't do what they do.
Yeah, yeah. I think when I went to like a Tom Hopkins seminar back in the 90s or early 2000s, that's where I kind of figured out that, you know, what my myth or what my thought process of sales was like what you're talking about. And then I realized, man, if these people can do these things and they're good people and they're helping people find their trajectory. And I'm like, that's the kind of salesman I want to be. Just like you said, now let's choose how we want to do that. And now it becomes part of your life, you know, and, you know, it's still so funny to me when people keep coming to me and say, you know, I don't want anything to do with sales and that kind of stuff, which just boggles my mind. But at the same time, you know, like you said, like you were just explaining, you know, we argue for our weaknesses. And so if you think you're not strong at it or you have that perspective of it, you've been able to move into different rooms, you know, as you've grown as a entrepreneur and a businessman and things have worked and you've been able to create and amass, you know, a whole bunch of money that a lot of folks that work at it all the time haven't been able to do. Maybe kind of walk me through some of those rooms that you thought, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to get into this room. One, because it might have been your color, or two, because I don't think I'm enough, or I don't really know how to do stuff, but you still push through it. And then once you got to those rooms, what allowed you to stay in them and even get to bigger rooms?
Yeah, it's really simple. Over the last 5 minutes, if you're watching a video, you just saw a little girl come in and ask for what she wanted twice, right? She didn't care about what I wanted and what I was doing. What she wanted was more important. Sometimes we got to be like the kids. That's the lesson. She just taught us the lesson. Go in the room for what you want. Who cares? Now, if I had screamed at her, hey, don't come in, don't do this, what are you doing, blah, 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 then that probably would deter her down the road. But most of us have never been kicked out like Jazz on The Fresh Prince. No, none of us have ever been screamed out of a room, chased out of a room, none of that stuff. But that's what we imagine. And all I chose was not to imagine that. Let me go in this room, and maybe somebody in this room has what I want. And my job is just to go in and say, do you have it? Do you do this? Can you help me with this? I do this. Can you help me? But you got to be like that little girl. She comes in and she asks for what she wants. After she got it, she didn't linger. She left with the stuff she wanted. I mean, it's really that simple.
Man. Well, I love how, I mean, you are making it super simple and a great analogy. Exactly. And loving what you did by not, putting that in her mind that that's not a good thing. Because she didn't hurt our podcast. She didn't hurt anything we're doing. She came in and she got a remote, whatever, and then went back to what she wanted to do. How have you been able to, as you're doing that and in those rooms, not feel like you're enough? I mean, I know you say it's simple, but we all have these belief systems that, we don't just ask right away. Like me calling you first to just say, can you get on my podcast? And I've interviewed some pretty big people, but they're just something that's in us that says, wait a minute.
So I'll tell you the real reason.
Okay.
Growing up in East St. Louis, I saw a post on Facebook the other day listing all of the people from the class that I graduated with that died, right? And I think before I turned 40, I had buried 60 of my friends, right?
Ooh, 60.
And yeah, 60. Wow. Like the list on Facebook is like super long in our little class reunion group. There were only 300 people in our senior class. So 20% of them are gone, right? So I realized a long time ago, hey man, none of this stuff gonna matter in 50 years because we're gonna be dead. And I looked at that list and I realized I ain't thought about half of these people in 15 years, right? Mm-hmm. So understanding that this stuff really don't matter in the long run as far as what someone thinks about you. And guess what? Here's the thing. Someone said this. They said, when you're under 18, you want everybody's attention, right? Mm-hmm. When you're under 30, you're trying to decide what you want to give your attention to. When you're over 30, you start to realize ain't nobody paying you no attention.
So true. So true.
Eventually you get to the point you're like, don't nobody even care about what I did. Oh, I failed out of college at 48. That don't mean nothing. That was 30 years ago. I talk to speakers now and I say, how many gigs did you do last year? Well, the pandemic. And I'm like, hey, using the pandemic as an excuse in 2026 is equivalent to a senior in high school when they're asked, why didn't you do your homework today? Saying, when I was in the 6th grade, the dog did this. That's how long ago that was.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't let a senior in high school, if we were the teacher, tell us that the reason they didn't do their homework today was because of something that happened when they were in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
That's how long ago. So we realized, look, man, how long is this going to stretch out? How long am I going to use this as an excuse? But what if my dream is in that room?
Yeah.
Right? A guy named Dan Pena, he said, everything you ever want in life is probably on the other side of a certain number of cold calls.
Okay.
He was like, dude, if you just keep calling people, I mean, I've cold called Tyler Perry, Melanie Hobson, anybody. I didn't care. I pick up the phone and I call them. Now, sometimes I get through, sometimes I don't. But one of my mentors used to be the CEO of BF Goodrich. I emailed him for 3 years. And he replied back. He had people that he was mentoring. And I said, dude, tell him I want to be his mentor. Like all of his mentees that I knew, I'm like, yo, tell this guy he should work with me. I want to do exactly what he's doing. Because he was buying companies. He ran a private equity company. And after 2.5 years, he replied back to me. He said, hey, stop emailing me. Let's go to breakfast tomorrow. Cool. I'm going to be there tomorrow. He was like, yeah, tomorrow, 6 a.m., meet me at this place. So
wow.
Just Just do it. Like, what you got to lose? You ain't gonna lose.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'll say this really quickly. I joined a fraternity when I was in college, and this was kind of like when pledging was like not illegal yet, but still happening a little bit, allegedly underground. And that was the best experience of my life because I knew,
hazing and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it was the best thing that could ever happen to me. Like, you talk about a fear removal process. Now, do I think people should die hazing? No, I'm not an advocate for any of that. What I'm saying is it was the best experience for me because I knew that if I ever walked into a boardroom, nobody was pulling out their paddle. Nobody was going to make me do push-ups. Nobody was going to make me memorize a poem and recite it. But I knew if I could memorize that poem and recite it under pressure, there was nothing that anybody could ever do to startle me.
Wow. That's so cool.
So it was like, yo, dude, if this is the worst thing I'm ever going to experience, life's going to be easy. So why am I afraid to go in the room? I had to go and wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and wait in line at Steak and Shake to get somebody some lunch when I didn't have the money, right? Like, you're just doing things that stretch your limits. So I think that as men, we're always, if I could say one thing that I hope my son or everybody ever gets a chance to experience is finding out where 2 inches before their limit is. If you can find out where your limits are, your life changes because nobody can ever push you to them. Right? Finding out how far will you go until you quit? Like, where does it take? Can I keep going? And then when it stops, you're like, dude, it stopped and I could have kept going. Dude, everybody else quit. I could have kept going. I still had more in me. That's, I think the difference maker,
Yeah. Maybe talk to me a little bit about like tenacity and consistency and those things where other people quit. Because one of the things I struggle with a lot when I'm working with people or I coach people is that their ability to quit on themselves so quickly and to be able to move forward so quickly. Like, we haven't even begun yet and you're already backing out. You're already pulling away. You're already saying this is impossible. Maybe what separated you in that? And then how do you help others? Because I know you help lots of people get to where they want, not quit on themselves.
Well, I don't think you can help someone not quit on themselves.
Okay.
Because I think people, I'll tell you a story. There was a young lady and she was in a classroom and like a coaching call type of thing. And they have you make a vision board with your, they have the vision board with the, what is it called? Like, put the car you want, the house you want. Yeah, all of that stuff. And they went around the room and they asked, what's your dream car? And she said, a Mercedes, right? And they were like, what model? She was like, a convertible. No, that's not a model.
No, but
she said a convertible. And after the call, they asked her, they said, so what made you pick a Mercedes? She says, I don't even care about cars. I live in New York City. We don't even drive cars. But I felt guilty not saying a car when everybody else was saying Mercedes, Lexus, and all of this stuff. I ride the train. I live in a big city. I got to rent a car park place. It would cost me $800 a month just for a parking spot. I don't dream about having a car. But the peer pressure forced her into do it, right? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs today are entrepreneurs out of peer pressure, not because they really wanted to do it. Gotcha. It was that, well, man, they started a business, maybe I should. Or, man, I made this great cake. They said I should start a bakery. Everybody keep telling me I should start a bakery. If your entrepreneurial journey started with everybody keeps telling me, I don't think you're going to succeed
You should
because
run.
it ain't your idea. It was everybody that they peer pressured you into that business. You were happy at your accounting job and making cakes and just having people tell you it was great. You didn't want to go do marketing and sales and take out a lease all because you like baking cakes. So I'll give you a great example. A lot of motivational speakers usually have survived some type of tragic event.
Of course,
They lost an arm or they were born without a leg or something like that. And I think that is a horrible price to pay to become a good motivational speaker. I'm not cutting my arm off to inspire people.
No. Yes.
So I'm just not like, I'm not about to do that. I just won't be inspirational if that's the price I got to pay. In the same way, I think people go and start businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And all they wanted to do was to bake a cake. All they wanted to do, they gave one person good advice, or they were logical and they had a framework for giving advice. Now they got to be a consultant. That ain't really, dude, keep working
You
at
want
the
to talk to
bakery.
people. Yeah. So,
but you see what I mean? So I think a lot of people are peer pressured into that entrepreneurial experience. So here's another person coming back into the room.
mm-hmm.
That's how it works. No guilt at all.
No, that's not even the thought process of the whole thing. Yeah, I so hear what you're saying. So my wife has an embroidery business and she's really good at it. And, she said, I started this as a hobby, I don't know, 10 years ago. And now we got, our basement started out with, like just this machine that could sit on the table. And then she expanded to another one and another one and another one. And so now I'm sitting down with her like, oh, we could scale your business. We could do this, this, and this, and this. And I'm trying to convince her that she needs to scale her business and we need to get these employees and we need to, I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's go turn this into, $1 million business. She's like, and it finally, I don't know, 6 months, a year, sticks in my head. Like, she's like, Brian, I don't want to scale my business. I'm happy where I'm at. I don't want more machines. I don't want the headache of employees. I actually like sewing. And what you're talking about is you want me to manage people. And it just, the light bulb came on and like, wait a minute, you need to go at your pace. Because if this is what you love, why would I take that away from you in the interest of what my dream is? Because I want you to scale your business because I want you to be so happy. And she's like, I'm already happy. I'm already.
Well, so let me give you an example of this. Do you play any sports? You play golf or anything like that?
I do golf a little bit now. I was a track guy. I coach track still. So yeah.
But do you own golf clubs?
Yes, I do own golf.
Okay. Right. Do you know guys who have custom golf clubs that cost thousands of dollars?
Yes, yeah.
They cost the same as much as those machines in your wife's basement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes
more.
My golf, golf clubs can be $3,000-$4,000 if you buy a custom set. But nobody's encouraging them to go play on the tour.
That's true.
So we see the sports, the hobbies that we love, but nobody's saying because you bought these $3,000 golf clubs, you need to get an ROI on them and start betting people or trying to go amateur or trying to go pro. No, it's just my hobby. So if you think of that machine, that embroidery machine, she just been upgrading her golf clubs, bro.
I love it. I love what you said because the name of her business is It's Just My Hobby. That's literally It's Just My Hobby LLC. And that's what she's been telling, now she's making it bigger, but she's doing it at her pace and her speed. And then I can help her along the way as she grows and wants to do more or to do less. So yeah.
I mean, it's like an amateur golfer. I play golf and then every once in a while I'm like, dude, they got a local tournament. I'm gonna play in that tournament. I ain't ever trying to go play with Tiger. I'm just gonna go play in the tournament because that's what she's doing with her business. Hey, I can get a few customers. If somebody wants me to make something every once in a while, I will. But I ain't my job to do this, Brian.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think now she's got like a 250 piece order. And then I'm like, okay, so that's is great. They got her at the gala. I mean, she's doing it because she keeps getting, I've never seen somebody get so many organic customers by just doing a hobby that now our doors ringing all day long, every day. But she loves that part of it. She loves the connection with the clients and the customers and doing a phenomenal job for them and from all over. And so, yeah, what if we go get a warehouse and then she'll hate it? You know, she won't be in that touch with those folks. And so, thank you for kind of just putting that perspective for me in a way that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, I know you're probably the largest speaking repository that you've now developed where folks can get speaking engagements in the entire world. And you have thousands and thousands of people. And so kind of talk to us about what SpeakerHub is and how it works for folks and why you even jumped into it. What made you say, hey, I want to do this for folks?
Oh, it was by mistake. Like
Okay.
it wasn't like, oh, I was inspired and wasn't none of that.
Your whole life. I want to do this my whole life.
Heck nah, that wasn't it, dude. I wanted to make some money. That's all I cared about.
There we go.
Right. So SpeakerHub is basically LinkedIn for speakers. We work with about 67,000 speakers that use our platform, just like a person would use LinkedIn to show off their speaking skills, just like you use LinkedIn to show off your work skills or your work experience. Right. So I got involved in this because I was a sales guy. I was doing cold outreach to set up appointments for software companies in St. Louis. And one of my friends, she asked me, hey, I'm a John Maxwell consultant. Can you get me speaking gigs using the same process that you're using to get sales meetings? And I was like, I can't get you the gig, but I can get you the meeting and you can close the deal if you want. And so a week later, we had a few meetings and she said, you need to talk to Chris. And Chris Robinson is the executive vice president of John Maxwell. So she was like, you need to talk to Chris. If you can solve this, every speaker would love this thing. So that's how I got into it. I had a 3-hour conversation with Chris about what the business should look like. The business that I was working on was one that I had just bought and I didn't know who we were going to like serve. I knew how I wanted to use the business, but I didn't know if everybody wanted to use it that way. So the pivot to helping speakers allowed me to be a big fish in a very small pond. So that's how I ended up working with speakers.
Wow. So as a result, you get started and you're now doing, more and more people are wanting the same service in LinkedIn. Has this become your passion and what you want to continue to do for your rest of your life, or what's
working with speakers or being in business?
I guess the type of business, or working with speakers, and then what does that evolve to, I guess?
Yeah. So I started off starting businesses, and in 2017 is when I bought my first business. So we've done 7 transactions in the last 7 years, right? So we've bought 7 companies. SpeakerHub wasn't a company I started. It was one that I bought 1.5 years ago, and I combined it with 3 other companies that we bought before that, and we just kept buying companies. So, we'll buy another company this year and add it to SpeakerHub, but that's what I do. So I care about the transaction. I like most people's product is whatever they're selling. My product is the business.
The business itself.
So, yeah. So I treat businesses kind of like how people treat real estate, where they buy a house, fix it up, and put a renter in it. That's what I do with businesses. I buy businesses, fix them up, and put renters in them.
Gotcha. But you're not buying them to sell them. You're buying them to create more income as your model, I guess, is what you're doing.
Exactly. For the right price, I'll sell it. Don't get me wrong. If somebody watching this, if you want to own SpeakerHub and you come at me with the right price, I will sell it to you tomorrow. Right. Yeah. But the goal is just like someone with the stock portfolio. They bought Apple back in the 90s and they still hold it. They bought Amazon in the late 90s. They're still holding that stock and they're watching it grow. That's kind of how I look at my investment portfolio. It's companies that I've bought and I'm watching them grow, and we keep reinvesting the dividends, as we like to say. Instead of taking a profit out, you keep reinvesting it into growing it and trying to buy other assets.
Gotcha. That's so cool. You have, as far as I've been able to see, a super special talent that encompasses patience, and you're willing to work with the person who is willing to say, "Hey, I need some help." And you have this knack about you, like they ask questions, you're like, I just answered that like 38 seconds ago, and you asking me the same question, and you're like this multimillionaire selling businesses, have businesses, and you're willing to literally answer those questions.
So,
how? Talk to me about
all right. So here's the thing. Like, it's funny because it comes from my mom, right? And there's the joke that says my mom thinks I'm a tech genius because I helped her to set up her email on her cell phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you're dealing with your parents and technology, I can't scream at my mom because she's not listening to me, right? I can't be upset with her. She's my mom. She's 40 years older than me. So I got to listen to what she's saying and help her, right? So when you're dealing with your parents, and again, my dad he never really recovered from the injury that he had.
Mm-hmm.
So for 3 years, me and my dad talked by me writing a text message on my phone, and then he would talk back to me because he couldn't hear what I was saying. He could talk after he read what I said to him, but he couldn't, like if I was talking, he didn't hear what I was saying at all. So when you have to deal with someone, my parent, my dad in that particular case, things of that sort, you learn patience because that's the only thing. So if the goal is me sacrificing a little bit of my time or my patience in order to help them better understand what I'm trying to communicate or to get to where they're going, I'm okay with that. Especially the speaking business, our average customer is over 60. So you're one of our young customers, right? One of our clients on the call today is 83 years old. She's 83 and she's on that call every day. You got to have empathy for that. Like, because I'm going to be 83 someday.
Yes.
And I wish my daughter would scream at me at 83. I wish she would, be upset with me because I'm not going to understand the AI stuff that they're doing when, in 30 years when I am 80, So, I mean, most of the time it's ego that makes us impatient. And dude, I'm going to die someday. I ain't about to sit here and be screaming at somebody that's in their 70s. Like, come on, man. And everything that we do is recorded. Can you imagine how viral I would go?
Oh, gosh.
If everything that we do is on YouTube, bro. I'm not about to, go viral for bullying a senior citizen.
Well, but I'm also just thinking of the fact that you're on the call. Yeah. I'm thinking that you're on a call that, this person who's running, a lot of the folks that I know that are CEOs or owners would never be on a granular call like you're on, showing how to, click on a button that says, this is how you make your email work, right? Because you're able to do that at that level and still go buy a business tomorrow. And there's such a gap in there, that I would think there is. But is that like you just love working with the underdog or the person who's there, and even though if it sacrifices a little bit of time, or you just got time like that?
No, I think number one, I have a great team that allows me to do those calls every day.
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
So that's the first thing. But the other side of it is, how many conversations have you had with Mark Zuckerberg?
Not a one. Not a one.
Elon Musk?
Never.
Steve Wozniak or Steve Jobs? None. Right? The owner of this thing we're using now. StreamYard. No. For most people, I am the only tech CEO they will ever talk to.
Yeah.
And if that allows them to change their perception of what software company founders are like, cool. I'm okay with being that example. So I know that I hate talking in chat boxes. So everybody gets my phone number so they can just text me. 4,000 people got my phone number, right? Because I hate that. Oh, I gave this person $5,000 and now they don't want to talk to me. What? No, so I just don't play that game, man. No, will we always be able to do the service the way that we do? Probably not. But I mean, here's the one thing I know. Go on Twitter and say something interesting and at Elon Musk. He's going to reply. When the guy John Legere was the CEO of T-Mobile, he was famous for being on Twitter replying to customers.
Wow. Such a great moment.
T-Mobile. Elon Musk got SpaceX, Tesla, the Boring Company, Sky, whatever the internet Sky thing. He replying to people on Twitter. I think I could take a couple customer service calls, bro.
There you go. Absolutely. What, I've asked a lot. I've been super selfish here because I've been asking you all the questions I want to know. What are some of the things that you want to make sure that our audience gets from our conversation today? Because it's been, I'm taking notes and I got a couple pages of notes here and I'm learning, and I'm going to continue as long as you on those calls. I'm going to be on those calls learning, not just as the information that you're giving, because I know a lot of the information. I want the example of this is how a successful business owner runs a business. And so for me, that's how I'm looking at it when I get these opportunities with you. What are some of the things you would love for the rest of us to know as we watch this?
Okay. It's cheaper to buy a business than it is to start a business. It's easier to buy a business than it is to start a business. So if I could start over, if I could start over today and I was 21 years old, this works at any age, but I want to remove the excuse from people that are going to say, well, I can't do this. So if I was 21 years old today, I would go get a job, right? And I would work that job and I would work overtime and I would do everything I could to save $100,000, right? Because with $100,000, you could buy anything on earth. You could buy the most expensive car. You could put down a down payment on your dream house, depending on where you're living at, right? You can travel anywhere in the world. You can do anything. You're mentally free with $100,000 in the bank in most places on earth, outside of California and New York, but everywhere else, $100,000 cash, get there as fast as possible, right? And then with that $100,000 cash, I would take the skills that I have, that I've learned trying to get to that $100,000, selling, whatever, driving Uber. I delivered groceries. I drove Uber. I did all of that, right? And then I would try to buy a business in whatever industry I was just working in. So if I was an accountant, I just graduated with my accounting degree, I would bust my butt for 5 to 10 years as an accountant, get all the skills, save up every dime. And at 30, I'm going to buy an accounting firm. And I'm financially free forever at that point. I'm out. I'm out the game. Now, I'm going to take that $100,000 and I'm going to use that as the down payment to buy a multi-million-dollar business. And I'm going to get my $100,000 back that year in profits. And the customers are going to pay off the debt at the bank. Yeah. You can do this at any age. I just made an offer a month ago to a business, someone they're in their 70s. They know when you get in your 70s, you know you ain't going to be doing this forever. You may want to do it forever, but you probably ain't going to be doing it forever because ain't none of us going to be here forever. And I said, hey, man, if you ever decide to want to make a transition, keep me in mind. And they said, you know what? No one's ever said that to me. But now you're at the top of the list. I said, because I'm the only one on the list. What you mean? Nobody's ever said it to you. Of course, I'm at the top of the list. I'm the only person. I'm the only person on
You're
the list.
listed on the list. Yeah.
So,
well, and you think about that. Yeah. If you're watching Cody Sanchez or whoever the folks, the baby boomers are booming. They have businesses, and there's so many of them that don't even know that they can sell them. That they just kind of let them sunset, and it didn't let it run out. Like all the years to do, but yeah, what a great thought process of save your money so that you can put it down on something that will. You like you said, for you, I'm not trying to run this business like, I'm in the transaction business and the business buying business. I'm not in running a company business, because you had other people to do that for you.
Yeah. So I'll give you because I know someone's going to say, well, that ain't the same. Okay. Let me give you an example. Why do I say that it's easier to buy a business than it is to start one? So imagine that there is an apartment building and it has 300 apartments in it, right?
Okay.
And it has a 3-year waiting list of people wanting to stay in that apartment building because the rents are reasonable, the service is great, the apartments are beautiful, it's in a great neighborhood, right? Across the street is a vacant lot that's the same size as the lot across the street that has the apartment building on it.
Mm-hmm.
You said, I'm going to go to the bank and tell the bank, hey, this apartment building right here, do you know it? They're like, yeah, it's most popular apartment building in the country. Cool. It has a 3-year waiting list. I'm going to build an exact replica across the street to make up for that 3-year waiting list. Do you think that the bank is going to give you the money to build that replica apartment building?
Nope.
Why not?
I mean, I guess because you don't have the know-how, or you don't know what you're doing as far as building. I guess you wouldn't find out. They may. What's the? Yeah, because there's a need. The bank knows they're going to get their money back if you get it built, but the cost to build it is so expensive. I would say that might be why they might not do it, because they're not going to get their money back for so long.
Well, but there's a 3-year waiting list of people.
Yeah, so you know it's going to be full. So yeah, so they'll do it because yeah.
So do you think they'll give you the money to do it?
Yeah,
to someone
absolutely.
who's never built the building?
If you got the lot, yeah.
Okay. Here's what they're going to ask you. Okay. Have you ever developed an apartment complex? And what's your response?
That's what I said. You know, yeah. No, I don't.
Have you ever poured a foundation of concrete?
No.
Have you ever done roofing?
No.
You ever done HVAC and electricity?
No.
Yeah, we're not giving you this loan. Right? Go down the same street. 2 months later, after getting rejected at the bank, you're driving down the street and you see a lady outside crying. So you're like, yo, are you okay? And she says, yeah, I'm okay. Me and my husband, we own this building. He passed away last year, and my kids, they think we should sell it now. So we're going to be selling this. It's already under contract. So we're going to be getting rid of this building. And you tell the lady, you say, did you get the price you wanted? She's like, nah, but we signed the contract on next week. So we're going to be selling it to the person that made an offer to us, but we haven't signed the contract yet. What would you do, Brian?
I buy that building because I don't have to show the bank, and the bank's going to let me because it's already proven. Right?
You see the difference? You go back to the same bank and you say, hey, you know that apartment building I told you that had the 300 people, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yeah, we already told you we're not letting you build the one across the street. And you say, no, I don't want to build the one across the street. I talked to the owner. They're willing to sell it to me, but I gotta have a decision by tomorrow. You got all the paperwork? Yeah, she gave me all the paperwork and everything. I've already signed the NDA. They have a buyer interested, but is not at the price that they want, that bank will probably, if your credit is good, they're going to buy that building with you. Do you know why? Because you don't have to know how to do marketing.
Nothing.
You don't have to know how to do sales. You don't have to know how to do operations. You don't have to know how to run Facebook ads. That is no different than saying pouring a foundation, doing HVAC, and doing roofing. That's why banks don't lend money to startups.
Mm-hmm.
They lend, but they will lend you the money to buy an existing business. Real estate is just the housing business.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So instead of trying to start your accounting firm from scratch, call every accounting firm in your city and ask if they for sale. The bank will give you the money to buy the one that's already running with customers, with the manager, with accountants that you don't have to go hire.
Yep. Because you don't have to know it because they're already there.
There it is. That's the difference. So that's why it's cheaper to buy a business than what it is to start one, because the down payment that you put to buy the business, most of the time you're going to recuperate that within the first year's profits.
Wow. So true. So I got one last question and then we will go. Why Colombia? What made you decide, hey, this is the best place for me and my family? Because I don't believe you knew Spanish, a whole lot of Spanish before you moved to Colombia. Maybe you knew a little bit, but now obviously you're fluent because you're talking to your daughter in Spanish.
Well, she don't think I know Spanish. She corrects my Spanish. So
oh, does she?
you know? Yeah, she don't think I know Spanish.
So why Colombia?
So back in August of 2014, there was the tragedy of Mike Brown in St. Louis. Whether you agree with what happened or you agree with what he was doing or not, I don't think the police should be shooting people like that are, even if they committed a crime. Hey man, chill out a little bit, right? A few months before that was the Trayvon Martin thing. Trayvon Martin's dad was from East St. Louis. So within 10 minutes of my house, these things had happened within 3 months of each other, right? Or it affected people within 10 minutes of my house. And I said at that time, I don't think that this is how, if we could just get shot or we could just be accused or anything with no consequence, I don't think that this is what I want to be doing going forward. So what I learned was, hey, I could go somewhere else. I could hop on a plane, use my passport. And one of my buddies, he lived in Honduras. So I was like, dude, I don't know anyone else outside of the country, but I got a passport. Can I come down to Honduras? I flew down to Honduras, stayed there. That led to me moving to Costa Rica. That led to me living in the Dominican Republic. And then he took a job in Cali, Colombia. So in 2016, I came to Cali, Colombia as a single 35-year-old man. I was like, this is the best place on earth. And then in 2019, I moved to Medellin. And so I've been in Colombia now for 10 years. But it came because I was like, dude, I got to go someplace where I'm not at risk of getting killed by the police, right? And for anybody who believes that, where they're living today, look up the crime rate in Colombia and compare it to the crime rate in whatever city you're currently living in. I promise you that the crime rate in Colombia is a lot lower, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we look at it. Does that make sense?
100% sense. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Man.
Ron, thank you so much for being part of this today and educating not only me, but other folks that are watching this and that are growing from it and are being part of it. I can't wait to have more conversations with you and spend more time in the wealth of knowledge that you had. What should people do if they want to be part of SpeakerHub or they want to, follow some of the things that you're doing? Where should they go and where can they find out more?
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about me and if you're a business owner and you're wanting to use your voice to grow your business, in the chat, I'm going to provide a link that will give you a free account at SpeakerHub. It'll let you sign up. You can get a free account and you can start showing off your talent, getting on podcasts like this, getting booked for other speaking gigs. And I'll also send you a coupon that'll give you an extended trial that'll let you use our software so that you can start talking to more people about the work you do. So you don't have to look me up on Instagram or any of that. Just click the link in the show notes, and that'll allow you to go ahead and interact with me. As Brian said, I do all the support calls and everything like that, but you can also use our product to get on more stages so that you can be the leader that you needed.
Wow. Thank you. Absolutely. I will pin it to the top of our comments and our show notes so that folks will be able to access it super easy if you're watching this as a recording after we're done here today. So again, Ron, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your willingness to spend time here on the show. And I can't wait to spend time with you in Colombia or wherever it is that life takes us. This is the first time you watch this show, go ahead, hit the subscribe and notification, all the things, because there are some amazing shows that I know you'll want to be a part of, that you'll want to listen to, that you'll want to just know that it's part of who you are and the knowledge base that you have. Don't forget your God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. You are born for greatness. This is stuff. He broke it, Rod broke it down so simple in the things that you can do in order to tackle on life in the way that you'd want to. Any one last thought, Ron?
Be like my daughter. Go in the room. Go ask for what you want. Life's too short not to.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys have an amazing, awesome day. We'll talk to you on the next. All right. Thank you.